Welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with the inspiring Ashley Wright, an entrepreneur based in Charlotte, North Carolina, who specializes in the art of journaling. Ashley is a creative force behind Strokes of Freedom and The Right Circle, a community dedicated to helping individuals find clarity and healing through journaling and connection. With over 20 years of experience, how did that happen? Ashley has crafted workshops that encourage deep self-reflection and foster personal growth with a supportive and open environment. She skillfully combines journaling with conversational coaching, supporting individuals on their journey of self-discovery and personal development. By providing an open, intentional, and non-judgmental space, Ashley has helped over 300 individuals gain profound awareness of their self-beliefs and the possibilities available to them. Ashley makes the journey to healing and emotional wellness both fun and effective. Through the art of writing, she helps individuals uncover hidden thoughts, encourages honesty with oneself, and teaches the importance of extending grace. She emphasizes that grace is typically the missing element in self-growth because many are preoccupied with comparing themselves to others. Preach. Stay tuned as we dive into the art of writing. Excellent. It's very nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. I'm so glad to be here. This is going to be so beautiful. But I'm amazing. I'm well rested. My mind is geared up. Feel open today. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. Well, I just have to say this. I know I'm in reading your biography. I was just looking at over 20 years of experience.
You know, I say that, and I'm like, I know I don't look a day over 25.
I was about to say, where do you age
I am almost 4 decades in.
Shut the front door.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I'll open it back up again. But yes, over 25 years. And that's more so my own like personal experience with journaling, of course. Yeah. But from the time I was probably, very young, like maybe middle school or so, of just like going to the pages, journaling, writing, doing all the things. So that collective experience paired with training that I received later in life, I'm like, get all 20 years of it.
You're right. It counts. It gets you to the place where you are today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, without those experiences, you wouldn't be the same person. Well, we always like to start off each episode with some background context because, of course, some of our viewers may not be familiar with who you are. Can you tell us a little bit more about your upbringing, where you come from, siblings, et cetera, so we can get a little bit of...
Who are you?
Yeah.
Who am I? Yeah. Yes, of course. So I am Ashley Wright. I'm from Dillon, South Carolina. Home of the Wildcats.
PD in the house.
I'm one of 6. Well, technically one of 8 total, but one of 6 in terms of household wise. Okay. And very much a classic like middle child, wherever that can fall amongst the 6. I know, right?
I'm middle child.
Listen, somebody got to advocate for us. Yeah. But very, very classic middle child, but always have been me, like very bubbly, very, personable, lots of attitude, lots of sass. Yeah. But I love people. I love serving. I love pizza with pineapples.
She a pizza with pineapples person. We had this discussion at work this week. There's a pizza with pineapple person right over here. Mike Pizza Pineapple.
I love it. Last night I had pizza with pears on it. That was a little different.
That's different.
Yeah, it was very different. Pears and a little goat cheese. I was like, okay.
They actually probably at work. I've had pizza with cherries.
Oh, I haven't had that.
That was interesting. It wasn't bad.
Would you get it again is the question.
Probably not, but it was very quality made. I felt bad because my wife, she wanted some pizza. I don't eat pork. And this pizza location is really good. It's in Columbia. I won't say the name. But they only had pork options outside of the cherry pie.
Oh, wow. So you had to.
You had to put cherries.
You were left with no choice.
No choice. Wow. But it was good. It wasn't bad.
That means you like experimenting. Yeah, exploring. Yeah. But that's me in a nutshell. I love... adventure. I'm just a very curious person. I was very much that little girl who got like, she's so inquisitive, but she talks a little too much.
What's
on
your
her
sign?
report card, I'm a Libra. Yeah. But yes, I was very much like that child. But also on the flip side of that, so to speak, I'm also very like reserved and to myself. Like I'm a thinker, very much of an introvert. Like I'm very much of an introvert. Very much. To me, because I like me.
Contemplative?
Like honey, yes. Very
You're talking about
contemplative,
somebody's
very
journaling.
reflective. Yeah.
You question everything.
Honey, from the rooter to the tutor.
Okay. That's good, though.
Well, and I think because it leads to that curiosity.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing has been, I'm fine with being curious, but let me not be super suspicious, right? Like, it's fine to investigate, but not to the point where you're trying to find the thing that's wrong, right? Or the thing that's missing. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So it's like training my brain to do
Train
more
your
of
brain.
that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So talk about your journey into journaling. How did that come about?
So with the household of being one of 6, there's not a lot of attention and space that's carved out for you.
Yeah.
And of course, over the years, I learned that, we all probably have heard it, like our parents do the best they can, like with what they have at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've reached a phase in life, and I'll tie that into my response to your question, where I realized it's great for me to know who my mother was who she is as a person, and not as my mother, right? So once I opened my brain up to that of like, she was a mom starting at 18, and then, a child kind of every other year after that, I'm like, who was she those 18 years before she became a mother? That's just one part of who she is. And I think that when I really let myself sit into that, more of like that grace for her came about. Yeah. And so I realized like if she didn't have it, she couldn't give it. So when I think about emotionally being like very underdeveloped, into like my 20s, a lot of that stemmed from not having those conversations at home of like, oh, how are you? Yeah. How was your day? Versus it being, did this get done? Right. And so I remember just turning to the pages very early in life because voice, I don't know that I had a voice. I don't know that I understood what it meant to have a voice, at that time. But journaling at that point felt like liberty. It felt like, oh, I can say these things, right? It impacted how I started to show up in spaces because the pages were where my conversations happened. Outside of the pages, I was the listener. I was the person that would, I was insightful, so to speak, or whatever, as my friends would say. I'm like, y'all, we're in 8th grade. What do we know? But so growing up in that space, understanding that I was loved, knowing that I was taken care of, but also understanding there was an emotional connection that, that was just missing. And so that's where like my journaling journey, so to speak, started. And it just continued. And it wasn't a daily practice, which is one thing I talk to a lot of people about. Journaling doesn't have to happen every day for it to be effective. You just need to know that it's there when you're ready, to write, or when you have like, that inkling. But yeah, started journaling, dabbled a little bit with trying to do a little spoken word in there.
Oh, you tried it?
And it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I was like, I'm gonna let that be. Like somebody else can have that. But yeah, so just started from there, and then throughout high school, college, different moments in life would bring me back to the pages more, where I'm like, okay, I don't know where this information can go. Like it can't live in my brain. It has to go somewhere. And so specific to like my business, that came about because of a breakup. I'd gone through my first breakup around like 26, 27. And I was like, wow, I'm crazy. Something's happening. It's like, what do I do? Like, what's going on? Like, I literally felt like, oh my gosh, like life is over.
The world is ending.
Yeah, honey, just doomsday. And it's like, in retrospect, it's like, now, girl.
It's not that serious.
It was never that serious. It was never that deep. So, but what was deep about it, so to speak, was realizing that there were parts of me that I had not yet explored in terms of insecurity wise, or, how I viewed myself. And so it wasn't even about the person. It was about like that loss of identity of self and like, kind of going back. And I think that's the case for a lot of breakups that people experience. And so during that time, I remember just like writing every day. I would write letters to him. I would pray. I would write letters to God. I would write letters to myself. All the things. And I would just be crying. So much cleansing was happening during that time. And I remember one night I was on my bedroom floor and I was like just journaling. And I'm like, God, this can't be it. There has to be like something else that comes from this. It can't be me crying in the car, crying in the shower, crying in between clients, like, because I was a social worker, a therapist at the time. And I was like, something else has to give. And in that moment, it was so clear. It's like, give this back to other people. So the same way that journaling is helping you to mend and to heal and to like really, restore, and it like the same way that you're like getting your freedom from this, like give this back to other people. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's like where I started, just offering workshops like at my church at the time to like the 5th and 6th graders like who were there. So I'm like, get them at that age where they can realize, hey, my emotions are more than mad, glad, happy, sad, right? I can feel so many different things. So all of that to say, starting from that space, just allowing for the practice to be, the journaling practice to be there and to be available and accessible when I needed it. And then from there, it morphed into a whole entire business.
I got a question because you brought this up. So you're working as an actual therapist and social worker?
Yeah.
Where at?
So by degree, both of my degrees are in social work.
Okay.
And so at some point in there, I transitioned over to more clinical work. And so I was provisionally licensed as a therapist. That was interesting because while you're in your own space and in your own thing, it's almost like anything you're talking to your clients about, you're like, oh, wait, is this me too? Is this me too?
Self-diagnosis.
And I'm like, ooh, I said, I can't do this.
Oh.
I was like, this is not.
How long did you do it for?
How long did it last?
It wasn't super long. I was for that particular company, I think I was there for a total of 5 years, but 4 of those years were more independent living for young adults who had aged out of foster care. And so a lot of just teaching them like the basics of life and, budgeting and how to grocery shop skills. And just lots of life skills, helping them plan like for their future. And so I would say maybe the last like 9 months to a year of that was when so much transition started happening for me while also starting that new job, becoming the lead therapist on the team and things of that nature. And so it's a combination of realizing that that's not how I wanted to approach helping people to heal, right?
So you pivot.
Yeah. Okay. So very much just let myself like say, yeah, this is not something I want to do. Like, let me take a break. And from there, I started doing like adoptions. I did adoptions for a bit. That was also very interesting in the sense of,
You did. All right.
Adoptions, financial social work. And I really enjoyed financial social work a lot because it let you know how people's relationship with money, how they thought about money, and all those different things. But so
we had to talk about that more.
Yeah.
I want to pick her brain on that topic.
Pick away, honey. But so did that just for a bit and then took some time away from social work like altogether. And I was like, you know what? I am a beast at administrative. Let me just like do more of that. So did that honestly for the past several years. Yeah. Wow. Did that for an event planning and catering company and then transitioned into my most recent role as an admin assistant. And I was there for about 3.5 years doing that.
Okay, wow. I'm an admin assistant right now, so I'm learning all the tricks in all the organizations. So that's why I'm asking you, like, what's your sign? So I'm a Virgo. So
okay.
We got that organization, that curiosity. We find little details.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Mean and structured.
Oh, that's so funny. One of my young adults,
oriented.
Listen, one of my young adults from years ago, I'll never forget. He said something. I'm very like, hey, you can do this, let's do it. Like, what point A to point B type of thing. And so he was talking one day to my supervisor. We were all in the office. He was like, well, what it is about Miss Ashley is it's the beauty that ropes you in. It's the beauty. then the beast comes out. And she's like, you got to do this and you got to do that. And
don't I be mean like that?
So
that's
you
real.
Said that. That's what comes to my brain.
No,
it's just
real.
like
beauty and the beast.
Sour Patch. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. I thought nah, bruh. You about to get that whooping today. Get that work.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also...
It's good, though. It's a good thing.
It is. And you may be able to relate. I think...
Sticking a carrot.
Being able to have like for me, it's like very much of a visionary and in the details. And I know there's some people who are solely visionary and solely detailed. So I think being able to merge those things together, equals success. But it definitely is a little Jekyll and Hyde situation. Sometimes.
Yeah, I like that you said that.
Can you talk about how has your journey to journaling, of course, the releasing of that process, how has that helped you over the years?
It has mended parts of me that I didn't know like were actually that needed mending. I think that for me, journaling allowed for me to be like radically honest, like with myself, because oftentimes when we're talking to other people, we have like this, I got to edit this out. I don't know if they're ready for this or,
storytelling.
Yeah. Like we just kind of edit ourselves. And I found that for me, I'm most honest, like when I'm journaling, and that preps me to be honest in real life. Right. Because it helps me to just be more aware of what's happening internally, what conversations I'm having with myself. And so for me, it's just giving me room to, and if I cry, it's okay. We can all cry together.
Go ahead.
It's giving me room to like love myself from the purest lens. And I think that as humans, we don't give ourselves that gift because we think that once I'm here, then I'm deserving. Once I'm here, then I think journaling helped me to really realize like that I'm already there.
You are enough.
I'm already enough, already loved, like already chosen, already. And I think that, it's been so liberating and freeing to, and it may sound strange, but it feels so liberating to see myself as a human.
Yeah, in human form.
In human form, because baby, I don't got nobody's cape. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a cape. I mean, maybe I do because I buy random stuff. Yeah, I be out here thrifting, honey. So I probably have a cape somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, it's almost like, oh wow, like a whole entire human with feelings and aspirations and excitement and grief, like all combined. And I think journaling has shown me in like the best and sweetest of ways, while also just remaining curious about who I'm unbecoming, as well. So it's been like one of the most like supportive tools over the course of these almost 4 decades.
What's it like reading your journals over like
surprise it's surprising, but again in sweet ways, but also because I have to tell both sides of it, it's also alarming because you read something, it's like, oh well, I didn't know that was in me. When we're journaling, like our subconscious like starts to take over, and stuff that is just like embedded there that we haven't explored, that is not in our conscious brain, it's like, oh wow, like that's in there. I've learned to allow for it to be that the awareness builds and that I don't force myself to take action just because I'm aware. So I think that's how we get in that cycle of, oh, I got to be better. Oh, let me fix this. Let me go. And it's like, no, oh, wait, okay. I'm now aware that I can sometimes feel angry. What do I want to do with anger? Sometimes I just want to sit with it, right? Yep. Sometimes I just want to allow it. Sometimes I want to befriend it, right? Versus resisting it and trying to make it my enemy. Like it's helped me to learn that every emotion serves its place, and there's capacity for us to feel all of it without that being who we are, right?
That's good.
So
that's good to explain that to a child.
No, you explain that well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason why you do what you do. That's why we're talking to you. Yeah, that made so much sense.
25 years worth of experience.
Like that made so much sense. That made something very simple that is normally complex.
Because we make it so complex, and it's really simple.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be complex or even like intimidating at all. It just gets to be,
because
overwhelming.
I think a lot.
Like
I tell that's even with my clients and stuff. I'm like, y'all, when you look at a blank sheet of paper, it's all about what you're telling yourself in that moment about it. It doesn't have to be intimidating, but it's like, oh wow, like this whole page is here for me. Right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think about it that way.
Versus it being, oh my gosh, it's blank. What do I do? What do I do?
I gotta put something in here.
It's just like, oh my gosh, like I get to do whatever I want to do with this. Like it's a whole entire page.
It's a perspective.
So, everything happens in our brain.
Let me ask you this: when you're looking at your past journals, is it a different perspective you're seeing yourself in? Like, I've grown from this. I'm not at this place anymore.
It's both and. It's like, oh, wow, like this was a cycle. Like this was something that I may still find myself in. Like what was going on at that time in life. So all journal entries are going to serve as like a point of reference, right? For growth of like, oh wow, you know what? This used to really grind my gears. And now I couldn't care less. Look at me.
I like that.
Progress.
Yeah, progress. So it helps you for me, when I go back, if and when I go back, it's very rare that I do, unless I'm like cleaning something and I found like a journal and I flip through. But more often than not, I think I've settled into that was for the time. And if I happen to stumble across a page, great. Or if I'm just curious, I'll let myself go back. But it definitely shows as like oh wow, like, who was that person then? Like, what conversations was she having with herself or about herself? Like, where was she in life? It's kind of like, Facebook would give us like, 10 years ago to that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what
was
delete.
Stop. Some of them, I'll be happy when I see them like, okay, I needed that today. I forgot about that.
I have so it's similar to that, to where it pops up and it's like, oh wow, like it helps keep record of life, right? And of memory.
That's what I was about to ask you. If it feels, and I mean, you gotta imagine, like, you go back millennia, people were really excited about having the ability to write down their thoughts, right? Or the printing press comes along. Oh, wow, now we can really write down our thoughts and keep printing them. Do you think it's similar in the sense of it's a record of history, but is it a record of history that you think, and mind you, it's opinionated, but do you think it's a record of history that should be looked back on regularly, or do you write it to get the cathartic reaction that you need, and does it need to stay there?
I tell people write it on the pages and leave it there. Because what ends up happening is more so from the standpoint of if there's something I write today, say if there's a question in my brain, I may write a response to that and journal through it, but I'm going to be left with a totally different question at the end of it. So start from there and progress forward. Again, if you're revisiting the pages from a place of curiosity, I was telling someone the other day, she said that she found an old journal and something that she had written, she said, oh, like that, like is a part of my life now. This was from years ago. And she was like, I'm really afraid to go back to see what else I maybe have manifested from way back then, from being angry, from being hurt, like what things did I speak then that I maybe don't want now. I was like, well, you get to give yourself the opportunity to go back from a place of curiosity to then break those agreements. If it's no longer, we can take a moment.
Wow.
We can take a moment.
That was deep.
Wait, this is why she got that experience.
Yeah, so
that was a nice way to drop that.
Agreement.
How
do you
break that
break
agreement?
The agreement.
From that awareness, right? So you go back and you read it and it's like, is this now what I want? I maybe love my reasons then for saying, X, Y, or Z, or maybe I wasn't even aware that I was choosing those reasons. But when you read it, it's like, oh, like, do I still, not that anyone was like, oh, I just want to make just enough money, right? Or paycheck to paycheck. But if someone sees that and they see that now in their life, you go back inside, oh no, I want all the wealth and abundance that I'm entitled to.
Right.
So you start to, you replace your language. It's like, and hey, I detach myself from this agreement that I made. I no longer want this. I no longer desire this. Here's what I want instead. And that lets you start to live into the newness of what you actually desire. Yeah.
I like that because you're setting a new intention.
Yes. Yeah. You're setting a new intention and then you're letting your brain, that's where that possibility and hope comes from. Because sometimes we write from a place of scarcity or not enough or whatever. And it's like, oh wait, what else is possible? Yeah. Right? Like what else if I release, just what else is possible? And then choosing to, go from that space.
That was a dope way to put it. Good Lord, you must be an interesting person to be a friend of.
How do you market, I guess this is like people to commit to self-care?
Well, I think I make space.
Okay.
My biggest thing is not like forcing people to do, but I also think that on the back end, business wise, like that hinders me some because I'm like, oh, you can come if you want. This is gonna be great. Very indirect.
Get in this.
You better get this.
Say it.
So very indirect. So that's something as a person I'm working on, right? Okay. As I've worked through more of like the worth and the value, it's almost like I believe in what I'm doing. Let me do what it takes to actually have more clients and to really market the right circle in my business and brand. So I think it's people just knowing the space is there. Okay. It's available, it's accessible to you, and there's room for me to change that messaging to where it really where visibility, me being more visible is a thing, and having those conversations with people where they just know like, okay, like this again doesn't have to be intimidating. Like even how you read earlier, I love like having fun. Like I love laughter. I love things being joyous. And there's a way to just like blend that with the other like truths about life as well. So it's like while you're healing, while you're mending, while you're overcoming, like let's also just give like that grace because you're human and like let's make it fun. Like let's pair that with some different activities. We don't have to have it to where you're sitting in this one place, writing this one thing and all these emotions come up and you don't know what to do with those. Like it can be this and this, and let's just blend those together just for healing to really be like cemented, into a person's subconscious, into their nervous system, into their brains, all of that.
Do you have speak just on the idea of the marketing and membership and business part of it? Do you have a want for this business to be your primary focus and income bringer?
I do, which is why I'm like, I gotta switch up the game plan. My full-time job actually ended last month. Okay. Yeah, and so I'm like, all right, I'm jumping out here full-time in my business.
Purposely?
Well, not from my end. The company shifted, like in terms of the owner of the company, her son is now a pro golfer, and they've been like working at that for 8 years. So she's like, I'm gonna take this year.
Right.
And I was gonna go travel with him. Work. Yeah. So she's that's like, so he's officially in. And so of course, we're all like very excited about it because it's been so long. They've been wanting this. And she's like, I'm just going to take the year. I'm just going to travel with him wherever he goes. I'm going to go. And I'm just going to enjoy it. And I'm like, you go, girl.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. So with that, it was, I think, now jumping into entrepreneurship or solopreneurship, knowing that, hey, I want to do this full time, have it be full-time income more than enough. It's teaching me a lot about myself of like, okay, The full-time job was great. You weren't hitting the street out here.
Now
you're like,
this is
cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the streets.
In the streets.
Podcast me, please.
Yo, I see what you're saying. All right.
But yeah, but that is the goal. That is a desire. Because I'm able just to see where it's going to grow into as I grow more like into me, into that business owner, right? Into that person who says, here's how I'm going to show up. I'm going to put in the work. And I literally did a video the other day. I'm like, what's not in question anymore is whether or not I have what it takes. It's like, am I going to do what it takes, like, in order for this to grow, right? Because so much of that, it becomes about us, like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, what if it's not that great? No, it's great. It's great.
It's great product,
yeah, it's great. And you get to let more people know that it exists.
Do you have a target demographic?
Right now, what I've seen, and who I would desire is people who are like right in like that mid-20s to, I'd say like 40 something. Okay. It's been primarily women, and I think women respond differently to like what I am providing, and I think women are naturally drawn in. Yeah. Okay. But when I think about overall like who has benefited, it's been men and women, but people who in all like walks of life. Specific to the right circle, if there's people who are like new to Charlotte, or maybe they're just trying to find like that community, but like their personal growth is important to them, like that's like the space that they're in. Those are the people that I want more of because they're already on that journey, right? And it's like I get to come alongside you and support you even more in that, again, while making sure that you are connecting with other people, finding people to do life with, expanding your own network and community. But yeah, it's people who are already on that journey, could be currently in therapy, could be complete, with therapy, but just people who want to invest in themselves because they know that like generational like healing is what flows from that.
What about our thugs?
Oh, baby, come on in.
Have you seen? That's
what I like. That's
you
what
said
sure
you had men
invited.
in your classes. How have you seen the impact of the journaling with them?
One person that comes to mind, oh my gosh, it's such a great question. One person that comes to mind, he was a friend of a friend, and he would like show up at the pop-ups. Cool. He's like, yeah, I don't have emotions. I'm just like here, and we'd have it at the tea bar. He's like, yeah, I don't drink tea, but I'm just here. Like, he was like, you're cool, Ashley. I love our conversations. I'm just going to be here. And he would journal. And he would be surprised every single time with what came up. And by the time, maybe by his third or fourth like encounter, like at the tea bar and journaling and whatnot, he's like, so I do have emotions. I do have feelings. Like, you've helped me uncover that. And it's almost like he was afraid to tap into that. And I think, of course, with men, and, feel free to speak to this, there's just so much of a, that's not allowed. That's not allowed.
Thugs.
Like, yeah,
thugs. That's why I said it like that. I said it like that to not. Yeah. But yes.
Yeah, but it's like that's not allowed. Vulnerabilities off the table, so on and so forth. And so there's so much just like suppression, that happens. And so with that, you can trick yourself into thinking I don't have emotions. For him, he realized I do have them. I don't know what to do with them.
That was what he really needed to see.
Yeah. And so for him, just be able to explore that and just really like navigate through that and like just openly now just expresses how he's feeling and talks about that. Like, that is just,
it's awesome. That's awesome. Yes. Look, you do your job. We got these people. You're doing your job.
Your journaling process. I'm sorry, going back a question, but your journaling process. What is it like? Do you like set candles, aromatherapy? What's your mood?
It depends. If I am in like the thick of it, and I'm like, whew. Baby, I've told people before, I would write on a napkin. I don't care if I'm yeah, honey, because it's
got to release.
It's like it's here, and the brain can get so fixated. So I'm like, I'll do that. I may record like a video or a voice note, but just something that helps me to start processing, because you can start to feel it in your body depending on what it is, and that can be joy, right? I can be so overjoyed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got to get this out. Yeah, because the pages are for the great feelings too, right? And not just the not so great.
Oh, that made me happy. Yeah. The pages are for the great feelings as well.
Yeah, like there's space for all of those. But for me, if I'm intentional, I'll get like a candle. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of music playing in the background, just depending on like the mood. But even with this, I'm doing a journaling challenge this year where I'm journaling every single day for the whole entire year. I don't know why I didn't just choose January. I was like, okay, we 53 days in now, so I guess I'll keep
rolling,
going. Yeah. But so sometimes I'm super intentional about it. I'm always intentional about it, but in terms of like setting like a space, I do encourage my clients to make sure that if I'm in session with them, that there's no distraction. So for me, it's like, there's not people running around and all these other things happening. I'm able just to say, hey, here's my time for me, which is how I want people to look at journaling. Like, this is you making time for yourself. You know, like just spending time with you, being curious about you. But in other times, I may just grab my journal, sit on the couch. I may be in the car, like in between something, and just, you know, grab my journal and write. But
do you carry a journal with you throughout the day?
It depends. If I'm going to be like bebopping around a lot, and since I know I'm doing this challenge, I'm like, okay, cool. I may have time, like to sit and write, and all of that. But normally there's some sort of, I started taking notes in my phone as well. If there's just certain things I want to jot down that I maybe want to explore later, or if there's a question that comes to my brain or a prompt that comes to my head, then I'll jot those types of things down throughout the day. For sure.
Walking around with a tape recorder, like
No, that's what we talk. What do we talk about? What do we talk about, Tamaya? We gotta get one. We gotta get one. I told her it gets they come out, get it out. I gotta do it. I can't do it on my phone. We were talking about this, the fact that it's nice to have items or tools that do just what they do for that one task, because it allows you to separate yourself from other things. Because this phone thing is dangerous because there's too many different things.
There's everything on
everything. You jump from app to app. And you be like, what was I doing here? I'm not even doing it in real life. I'm looking at my phone. Like, what was I doing?
I was doing something I needed to do. But yeah, that's what we were teasing about, the idea of getting just walking a tape recorder to collect ideas, thoughts, and et cetera, to get it off your chest, right? So you can have it and not have to worry about, did I miss that? Is it still holding on to it?
Yep, trying to remember it. Yeah. There's nothing worse than like getting like what feels in that moment like a very brilliant idea, and it's like, oh yeah, this is it. Gone.
The more you release, do you feel yourself becoming more of your higher self?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I think and even too, like I used to talk to my clients a lot about like recognize, honor, release. Being able to recognize, here was life, here's what I experienced, here's either what happened to me, what happened around me, here's blah, blah, blah. Honor that for what it offered you in life. Honor it for what it took away from your life. Like just honor that thing versus having resistance to it, and then release. And it's at that point, it's almost like, there's room for more, you know, all of those things, because then you're not weighed down. I used to tell this story about, there was an apartment that I lived in years ago, and I was going home to Dillon for the weekend. And I had a bag for my shoes. I had a bag for this, like all these different bags. And I had to take the trash out as well. So I'm running downstairs from the 3rd floor, just tired, exhausted, like all this different stuff. Get to the car, toss the trash out. I'm heading out. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I need to grab like my chapstick from my purse. And I go reaching back. Purse is nowhere to be found. The most important bag is at the apartment. So I go back to the apartment. As I'm coming up the stairs, I'm like, oh, I feel lighter. Like, this feels good because I'm not, like, in that hustle and bustle of all the bags. And instantly in that moment, it was just, like, the most important thing you forgot. But you had all these other bags, stuff that wouldn't have mattered. I didn't have my chapstick, didn't have my debit card, didn't have my phone, my wallet, any of that stuff. And so in that moment, it was like, what does it look like through the art of, like, journaling, to say, hey, here's this bag that I have, this bag of life. Let me take out the stuff that I don't need, right? Because then again, I'm not weighed down, so I can continue to, to elevate emotionally and spiritually and mentally in like all these different ways, because I don't have this other stuff that's weighing me down. The journey is lighter after that, You can
flow.
Yeah, I can just flow. Just gliding on through life, honey.
Man, the way you are conceptualizing these ideas, this is amazing.
That kind of goes into our next question about grace. Like, how do you define grace?
Whew, honey. Grace to me, when I think about it from my own spiritual lens, like just unmerited like favor, but also just the mercy of grace as well. I think it's tied into that, to where it's just having expectations of self and then saying it's okay if those expectations are not met. You know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes our expectations of self and of others are just like made up. So extreme.
Above and beyond.
Honey, because who? Like, what? Okay. And we're all guilty of it, to an extent, but we have like this whole, for people, by 30, I need to be here.
Yeah, society wants us to do it.
I just started this business and it should be doing $1 million tomorrow.
And I want my money back.
Give it back.
Yep.
I've invested.
Yep.
So it's like, so for me, it's like that grace of how I oftentimes say it to my clients, like if I wouldn't talk to my best friend, my closest, dearest friend in a certain way, then I'm not going to say that to myself. Right? So if someone's running late for an event, oh, honey, it's fine. Just get here safely. Like, you're all right. We'll wait for you. Yeah. But when it's us, oh my God, I can't believe I'm late. I'm the worst person ever. Okay, calm down. Look dramatic.
That's the subconscious, like beating us down. Yeah.
So grace changes that conversation that we have with ourselves. Like grace, to me, like removes like that shame and like that guilt of being
that's
human.
One of my most stifling emotions, shame.
Yeah, because like, where does it come from?
I don't know. Where does it come from?
Yeah.
The bottom of our feet? The soles of our feet?
I don't know. But I think we do get to...
I think it's the ego. I think the ego brings shame because it's like, why are you doing this? But you know you can do better, but you didn't give yourself the grace in that moment.
It's based on your self-construct.
Yeah.
Ego.
But even with that question of why are you doing this, like, if we actually pause to say, like, to give ourselves an answer.
Oh.
Right? For anything. Or even if it's like, where does shame come from? Like, that's like a real question that we can all like sit with and say, okay, when was the very first time I ever felt shame? Wow. Was it when I was 3 and I chose to take my diaper off and run around and somebody was like, oh, no, don't do that. Oh, wait, what do you mean? Like when does shame really seep into our brains as something that we could feel?
I got 2 answers for that.
Go ahead. If you want to share.
One was when I stole some Rolos from a grocery store. I didn't know I was stealing.
Oh, see?
I learned that day, and there was that shame came in. And then the other was when I was at this daycare center. I was probably like 3-4 years old, and this little girl was coming over. She was trying to kiss on me. And I didn't know what kissing was, but the lady came and swooped in and said, no, this is bad. Tisk, tisk, tisk. And so then I got shame on that. And I was like, I ain't do nothing.
Yeah.
I ain't do nothing here. So those 2, Yeah. That was early on.
And that's the thing. Early in life where our brains are not even fully developed until like 25, 26. So, right? Think about like that 3 and 4 in that young age where someone's telling you something and no one's explaining the thing.
Yes.
Right? So it's almost we instantly feel the shame versus it being like, hey, here's why this isn't okay. You didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
Imagine if some of those bigger moments in life, if someone's first response to us was, you did nothing wrong, everything's okay, like everything's fine, let me tell you about X, Y, or Z. And I think people, again, don't really know how to have, those conversations because they're not thinking about the implications of that, right?
Conscious parenting.
Yeah, I was asking one of my friends, this is a few weeks back, he was just dealing with just some job stuff and trying to figure out life and like, hey, I have this list of things I want to do and I haven't done them yet. And I'm like, if shame wasn't an option, then what? Like, just think about one of the feelings or the emotions that we feel the biggest and the most, right? If it was not an option to feel that, then what route would you take?
That's so crazy. Shame is it's just there.
It's just there. It's
just there.
And we make it bigger.
We name it other things.
We name it other things.
Yes. When you broke it down to that, I broke it down to like earlier this week. I was like, okay, where did I mess up this week? I messed up 3 places. I forgot to attend a lunch meeting. I forgot to submit a homework thing for an job interview, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's just how you think of shame. We're reprogramming it to many different ways in our life.
Absolutely.
That blew my, because now I'm like, darn it, I forgot to do those work cues on Tuesday. But I don't want anybody to come to me about those work cues saying that I didn't do them.
Well, if they do, it's like, you know what, hey, I didn't. I'll get right on that.
Right.
It doesn't have to be any deeper than that, right? And I think it's once we give ourselves permission, again, for like that humanness and that, I don't know why this is coming to my brain, but when Allen Iverson was talking about, like, it's just practice. Like, y'all
he was right.
It's
and they
almost
tried
like,
to shame him, but he didn't allow it to happen.
He didn't. He was like,
he did
y'all
not allow
understand?
that emotion.
Like, he put some separation in that. This is I show up for the game.
Yeah, I get paid
and I show
for the
up.
game.
Yeah, but
I don't get paid to practice. Yeah.
But in that, it's just like he, even though it felt like he was maybe being dismissive about something that is, integral to like, to the game, it was one of those things of he chose to not feel any particular way. Like, hey, there's other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what about the practices that I did go to?
Yeah.
Right? So even in the things that we've forgotten, what did I remember this week?
I'm going to use that now for the rest of my life. When I think about shame, I'm like, Iverson said, it's just practice. You ain't pulling me down with you.
You're not pulling me down. Like, I show up any other time.
He does.
And the time that I didn't for for valid reasons, if I can remember, it was just like, don't make a huge deal about this thing. The same is true for every day in our lives. Like, oh, I'm running late for this. I don't have to make a big deal about it. Do I want to make a habit out of it? No. Right?
Yeah.
But
stuff happens.
And it's okay.
The modalities. I'm just gonna need
I see why
workshop.
I'll go to your workshop. Make you feel better.
Because it's like you're just changing the way you're thinking about stuff. You don't really literally simplify how you're viewing things.
Never. Yeah, you have to think about what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Because I think in that...
You gotta think about what Mike over there is like.
One eyebrow.
Yeah, like think about what you're thinking about, and I think adding more grace and even like self-compassion into that. And it was a couple years ago, I remember reading that one of the definitions for compassion is suffering together, like to suffer with. And I remember instantly hearing that. I'm like, okay, well, how can past Ashley suffer with present day Ashley, suffer with future Ashley? How can all of those suffer together? And not like in angst, right? And full suffering. But the vision that came to mind is like, if I see someone who, you know, maybe is facing homelessness or maybe they're having a rough time, I can come in and suffer with them by providing them support or, you know, or attention, right?
Yep.
Eye contact. Offering food. If there's a friend who has something going on, I can offer presence and suffer with them. It doesn't mean that I'm like right there where they are, but it means to be able to see, hey, here's this human having a very specific experience. So what does it look like to have that internally? So that's what self-compassion and even like what self-grace looks like. It's just like every day is a brand new day. Like I've never been that person tomorrow.
Right.
You know, I get to send grace in advance of like, okay, Lord, I ain't been in tomorrow yet. Like, so it's brand new. It's a whole new experience. I don't know what to do with tomorrow. I'm here today, but I get to know that, I just get to, have that grace, have that compassion towards myself and not expect 100% perfection ever. Not even all the time, just ever. Because, we can be great and we can be beasts at certain things. And it doesn't mean that there won't be mishaps. True. It's just a part of life.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, you make people feel better. I know you do. I'm gonna talk to you feel lighter.
Again, my biggest thing, I'm like creating spaces where your humanness is allowed. We're not performing, right? I'm not grading the journaling. You look so much like my brother right now. It's crazy. But I'm like, I'm not grading the journaling. Like you get to have that conversation like with yourself. And I'm just here like to facilitate that, like to guide that, because again, I think it helps you to feel differently about you and towards you. Versus the harshness, the critic, right? Yeah. Like all of those things that naturally come up sometimes, creating like a new natural.
Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we got a little bit of time left. We do want to hit one question before we get to the boring stuff. So finally, just with community, the idea of community. And of course, you created the Right Circle. How did it begin and what activities do you have available and what can we expect from you in the future?
Awesome. So the Right Circle started from me doing the pop-ups. I would do them in different venues in Charlotte, and we would do those for an hour. And what I found is that people were just like, oh, like, what are y'all doing after this? Or, what do you have going on this weekend? And I realized that so many people who were coming were either just browsing Eventbrite or, maybe someone mentioned it to them, but they were seeking community, like in genuine connection versus it being, oh, I can go to this event and then leave. It's like they wanted to stay. Right. Like I'm staying 30 minutes afterwards and we're just talking. Lots of fellowship. And I'm like, I think a lot of people were literally like craving connection. Like loneliness is a big thing. Charlotte has, and I'm sure other cities do too, where people just randomly moved here. Some didn't have a job. Some didn't. They didn't know a single soul, but they're like, "Hey, Charlotte is where I'm being pulled to. That's where I'm going to go." And so once I was realizing that the people who were coming were looking for connection, looking for community, I'm like, what does it look like to have that again paired with some sort of social activity where more connection happens, where like intentional connection happens? And I'm like, oh, I can do like a membership and have people, they can pay each month. I do all the planning, everything on the back end. They just get to show up and they get to have the therapeutic experience of journaling. And it was something that my boyfriend had mentioned to me. He's much greater than the other one.
Put that down.
Put that
shout out to my bookie. But so he had mentioned like what does it look like to have a membership, and this was maybe like a little over a year ago or so, like when he first mentioned it. And I was like, maybe I have to figure out the logistics of it, so on and so forth. And then as I was anticipating even the transition from like work into this being full time, I'm like, I have more time to plan, flexibility during the day and all of that. And I'm like, let's just do it now, So just allowing for it to be that, like an event we did in January was journaling and jewelry. So the goal is to pair journaling with activities that people normally would not pair those with. And so we set like intentions for the year. We talked about different things, we journaled, and then we had necklaces made. I don't have mine on today, but we had necklaces engraved like at the event with a word that we wanted to feel or experience or reflect on at the end of the year. And the word I chose was already. And that was, again, already worthy, already done, already enough. And so people chose different things, but even like that was one of the events we did. In March, we have a mocktails and mindfulness event. I'm not a drinker. I've never been a drinker. I'm like, some people are doing dry 2025. I don't know. But I'm like, what does it look like to have, your mind cleansed, but also curate like 3 different mocktails and just enjoy other people, that are there and all of those things. Doing a flourish and flow, and that's journaling and calligraphy. So just learning the basics of calligraphy. I know.
I'm about to come to that class.
Interesting.
I got a calligraphy box I have not opened. And I was just looking at it last night because I was doing yoga and I was like looking at it upside down. I was like, oh my God, I have not looked at, I haven't opened the box. So
that's something you don't want to open
me the information
until you're ready. Yeah. So just giving people room to just explore like different things they've been wanting to try but haven't, but pairing that like with journaling. Cool. And again, other people being there, they get the chance to just connect to other people. We just never know who you may meet. There were 2 women who were like both farmers in North Carolina who came to a pop-up one day, didn't know each other, but just through conversation, they realized like, oh my gosh, like we're farmers. They got the chance to connect and, do all the different things, but we just don't know like who's going to be like in our space. And so I think you just kind of expand your network just by going to these events and having a good time, not thinking about too much of life, for a while. But yeah.
That's awesome. Now you got to tell people your website.
Yes.
And how they can find and reach you on the socials.
Yeah, on the socials.
Because that's what as the young folks say, so they can come and join you and be a part of the chat.
The chat.
The chat.
So yes, my website is strokesofreedom.com, like a pen stroke, Strokes of Freedom. On Instagram, that's also Strokes of Freedom, and those are the 2 major spaces that people can connect with me. And you can
you got a nice website, by the way.
Thank
I'm on
you.
it right now, just being nosy, looking at Liam G in there.
Outside their bio.
You can use it. You can use it.
Use it.
I said, that sounds real good. But yeah, so strokesofreedom.com, Strokes of Freedom on Instagram. My YouTube, everything else links out from all those spaces. Newsletter for upcoming events. Each Sunday
you do a newsletter.
Every Sunday I send out a Sunday Shenanigans email, and that's just more so recapping the week, talking about like the weekend, but also sharing, hey, here's something I learned or something I thought on this week. Here's some prompts based on that. But yeah.
And you keep a calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm liking the calendar.
Yeah, the goal is to have the calendar at least 3 months out. So like next week I'll be adding more April. Yeah, the April events and things like that. And that'll be virtual and in-person opportunities. Yeah.
Dope. So you don't have to be in the exact space to participate.
No, not at all. Because even outside of the Write Circle, that's one membership that I have, but I also have Let's Write Together, and that one's fully virtual. Yeah, so that one's fully virtual. We meet twice a month there for now. I'll be adding more dates to that too, because some people maybe don't want membership. They want to just pop in.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does it look like to pay $20, $25, pop in, write and all those things.
Do you do anything on your socials, like lives or?
I've been more live on TikTok. That's a space I'm still like figuring out there. The plan is to do more lives on Instagram and be live on YouTube, especially with me doing like the journaling every single day. So right now, I actually share like what I wrote about on YouTube. So like I read the actual journal entries and things like that.
That's a good idea. You put a little spin on it.
Yeah, so I call like a peek into my journal. And at first it was going to start like as like a once a week, like, oh, here's something I journaled about. And I was like, let me just challenge myself to journal every single day like this year and just share it out on socials.
What's the YouTube?
Ashley Rochelle. So that's my first and middle name.
You said Ashley Michelle?
Rochelle. R-I-C-H.
You got a black mama. Go ahead, my fault. Yeah, that's what we do with them names. Just make sure I ain't losing my mind. All right, I got it. I'm on there.
I'm tickled.
But yeah.
How do you find balance with everything going on?
I think I stopped seeking balance. It's more of like where's like the harmony, where's the flow of things, right? Because I think that with even scales, right? with the balance, it's like, oh, if this is here, this has to be here. And it can make you feel like that in all the ways. It can make you feel like that emotionally or mentally, where it's like one or the other. And I just did a writing about this the other day where I found myself, I struggle in the middle to where it's like, it's either this or it's that. And it's like, how can I just be in the middle? So I think harmony puts me in the middle. And it allows me to,
and grace, harmony and grace.
Harmony and grace. Like it puts me in the middle to just kind of ebb and flow, right? Just like find my rhythm, and just move from there versus trying to real life balance things out. It gets to be chaotic.
Yeah. Especially with everything going on.
Yeah. So I even business-wise, jumping out into like solopreneurship, I think my mindset was, cool, okay, every day I'm going to do this and that. No. I'm off on Wednesdays. My admin day is on Fridays. I'm done at 12. And I
learned about them admin days.
Honey,
admin hours.
You have to. Blocking those things off. But so I think it's, understanding, again, coming back to the humanness of it. I'm one person. I can do a lot, but I can't do everything, right? And I can't do everything every day. And some days I do work on Wednesdays because I'm like, okay, cool. This I feel like working, but maybe I'll still take Thursday off. So it's like kind of playing it by ear and giving myself permission to be on some days, to be off some days, and to not make a deal about it. It's a process. Listen, I said, honey, it's a process. Because next week might be the, oh, Lord, I just
She flowing.
And there's room for that. I mean, I'm just flowing. But there's room for it all.
Excellent. Well, before we leave, what did you bring with you?
Oh, okay. So I published a question book. I wanted to ask y'all a question.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask us a question.
So it operates kind of like a game. But yeah, I have these like on my website and all that stuff too. But during COVID, I'm like, people don't know how we were stuck in the house, not stuck. You know, we're living with people and all those things. We have roommates or partners or whatever. And I'm like, people don't really know how those around them think. Yeah. Right? We can know what they're into and what they like, but how do they think? And so sat down over the course of like a couple of weeks and like mapped out 300 questions. I'm a question queen. I love questions. Questions are how we learn, right? We get information that way.
How much is the book?
Like, it's $15.
My wife likes these things. Now I'm going to have to buy it.
It's $15, but I organize or design it like a game as well. So it's like you can. So I'll flip through it, and y'all will tell me to stop. You can choose whoever's going to tell me to stop, and then I'll. So we'll flip through. If the first question is one that we don't want to answer, we can edit that part out. Okay. All right, and go.
Stop.
Okay, left or right?
Right.
1, 2, 3, or 4?
3.
Oh, okay. How familiar are you with the term colorism?
I don't know nothing about that.
Oh.
I'm teasing. I'm lying. I'm lying like a mofo. I'm pretty familiar with that term.
Okay. So with that, the goal was for it to be that it would just like open up just more conversation. Some are more lighthearted questions.
That'd been deep right there. We've been up in here crying.
Yeah.
You can do a whole podcast with that book.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I have my own podcast that I completely stopped doing. And I told myself now that I have more time, I'll jump back into it. But
what's the name?
Hey Honey, the Hey Honey podcast.
I know you like saying
I did see that on the website.
Yeah, she ain't playing about that.
Yeah, so we have to check you out.
Yeah. So I'll but yeah. So I think this was also
and they can go get where can they purchase?
Yeah, right on my website. Okay. So it's strokesofreedom.com/store. That least it's available in English and in Spanish. So I love the Spanish language. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I had it translated and whatnot. But just to open up conversations. Conversations can lead so many different ways with just a single question. A friend of mine loves saying that he was one of the first people to get the book, and one of the questions is I think purple or yellow or purple. I can't remember how I phrased it. And he was like, that just took their family on like a 2-hour conversation. And he found out so much about his grandmother, like, oh, why was yellow the color? And it tied to this story, and it talked about this phase of her life and all of that. So just having those moments and memories with people where it's like, all because of one question, you get to just really learn how someone thinks, where they are, habits that they may have. But yeah, just helps us to stay curious.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
We greatly appreciate you. We'd love to have you back.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll love to be on your podcast.
Love to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
If you need help with your podcast, let us know.
And I probably will.
Hey, that's what we're here for. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the Hilltop Glove Podcast. It's DJ and what?
Tamaya.
And our esteemed guest,
Ashley.
We really appreciate you this morning. Made us feel good, man.
Yes. Awesome. Yay.
So make sure you tell somebody next to you, down the street, around the corner, wherever they at, that you love them and that you appreciate them. And until next time, this is the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Signing out. Peace.